Phil Ibbotson and Will Jefferson had also climbed a few places and were now in 7th place. After a bad start for Martin Cox, hitting a tree on his first run, he was getting back into things and was lying in 8th place. Tony Coyd had been having a bad morning too, a glancing blow with a small tree on run 1 just causing cosmetic damage to the front wing, but a more substantial impact on run 3 bent the front of the car. He continued though and was lying in 9th place after run 5. We'll catch up with Tony later in the show to explain the damage. And rounding up the top 10 after run 5 was Gary Bartlett in the Milner R4. Previously running as high as 5th, Chris Hammond's weekend was about to take a turn for the worse. He had a couple of good runs, but on run 4, a puncture stripped from the rim and took out a section of the car's wiring.
Chris, you've had an interesting season, but this weekend isn't the best, is it?
No, it's not our event this weekend. Run 1 on the start line, we broke a drive shaft. Very slippy lap, very difficult interior drive. Got it back, dropped down the field. Run 2 and 3, really good, but then run 4 we had a puncture and the tyre delaminated and took all the wiring out on the bulkhead, so game over. So one of those events, but obviously it's the one we're going to drop and look forward to the next event.
So we're going to see you at Driffield then?
Yes, I think so. Not my favourite, but at the end of the day it's the same for everybody and we'll be there.
Run 5 would also be the last full stage for Ian Rochelle. The following stage he would retire with a broken suspension arm. Martin Gold had already had his share of misfortune today, and it would get worse, with 2 of his tyres puncturing on one of his runs and his prop shaft breaking on the other. He had now dropped down to 20th place. Last-minute push from Richard Kershaw on the last 2 runs of the day saw him take the lead, but only by 8 seconds. This meant that Tim Dilworth ended the day in 2nd place. With the top 2 crews trading times, this great battle would surely continue into day 2. For Dan Lofthouse, it would be a tall order to improve on his 3rd place at the end of day 1. Over 4 minutes separated him from the top 2. He was not helped by numerous punctures throughout the day, and it was unlikely he would make up that time over the 6 runs left on Sunday. For Steve Smith, it was looking like a good event. Despite a few minor problems, he was in 4th place. He would be too far behind to chase for anything more, but he would still have to keep his good pace on Sunday to stop the chasing crews behind him. Bob Seaman would finish the day in 5th place, but that wouldn't be without its dramas. He discovered he had a broken diff casing at the end of the day. Obviously lucky that it didn't fail during one of his runs, and the team could fix the parts before the next day's racing. Ian Bartlett was going well on his return to the championship, and at the end of the day was lying in 6th place. Still holding on to 7th at the end of the day with a really impressive drive was Phil Ibbotson, the Metro coping well with the conditions and not showing any signs of the problems everyone else seemed to be having. Tony Coyd had jumped up a place and finished the day in 8th, the shunt with the tree obviously not causing him too many problems. The jump up the results was partly down to a mistake from Martin Cox though, on the final stage, when he went into the hairpin too quickly and tipped the car over onto its side, giving himself a maximum. He dropped down to 15th place. By the end of the day, Greg McLeod had managed to get himself into the top 10, finishing day 1 in 9th place. But Greg was another driver who had a problem-filled day, with his brakes sticking on for the first part of the day, numerous punctures, and a broken power steering pump. Not to mention the trees jumping out in front of the car. Gary Bartlett was still having a consistent and clean run, sitting in 10th place in his Milner R4. Now back in his own Brit Part 100 after borrowing a car for the last round, Paul Myers had been having a good morning, but the afternoon was a different story. A number of maximum times dropping him down the order, and a split oil cooler on the final run giving the team something to work on at the end of the first day of racing. Another driver with problems at the end of day 1 was Dean Sutcliffe. A mysterious problem with the fuel caused him to get a maximum on the final run of the day, dropping him down to 19th place. We'll see if he can find the fault before day 2. In another bowler, Richard Green was having a clean run and had moved himself up the results throughout the day, 12th at the end of day 1. Only one clubman entry on this event, the Wildcat of Richard Hayward, the conditions proving a bit too much, and he ended the day in 18th place. So, after 7 runs on day 1, this is how the top of the results look. With 6 more stages left in the morning, we should see some interesting battles on day 2 here at Glanhusk Estate. Rainfall on day 2 means that the condition of the stage is going to be even more of a challenge for the crews. First to sample the stage in the rain would be current event leader Richard Kershaw. Fastest on this first run, he would extend his lead to 10 seconds. Tim Dilworth was close behind in 2nd place, fighting for the win here to keep his championship hopes alive for the season. There was no sign of either of them backing off. Still too far back to make a difference to the overall winner of the event, Dan Lofthouse was once again suffering a puncture, losing at least 30 seconds in run 1. Steve Smith was having a good run and was still up in 4th place. A gap of over 7 minutes now to Lofthouse though. It looks like no one else will break into the top 3 today. Ian Bartlett was a further 2 minutes behind Smith in his 3M206, 5th place at the start of day 2, and a good clean run for him on his return to Crickhowell. One of the best drives from Phil Ibbotson this season sees him in 6th place, the car going well on the slippery surface, but it isn't over yet, with 5 more runs remaining.